Welcome to Cooking from the Cave. I'm Chef Pete Truziak, and today we're going to be making fish and chips with oven roasted fries. We're going to start with the fries because that's going to take the longest. And what I have here is I have some Yukons as well as some red potatoes. I've cut them into wedge sizes. Now we're going to dress them with a little olive oil, just enough to coat it. And to get them so they have that nice texture on the outside, that nice caramelization, I have a sheet tray already preheating in the oven. And this is the key because it gives you a crispy side on both sides of the potatoes. You don't have to really turn it that much or shake the pan. The next step is a healthy 2 pinches of salt. This is sea salt. And 1 small pinch of black pepper. And then I'm going to add some paprika as well as garlic powder to this. It's about a teaspoon of each. We're going to shake this up. Make sure they get nice and coated. And you don't have to use red potatoes if you don't want to. I do it for color more than anything else. But I like the texture and the taste of Yukon, so I'm going to try and use those every time. Russets would work too, but they're a little bit bigger. You got to cut them a little bit more. Now we're going to pull out that preheated sheet tray. Again, it's going to be coming out of that oven. That oven is set at 400 degrees on a roast feature. And what I want to do now is I want to add a little oil to the bottom of this pan. Not a lot. This is a cookie tray. Because that pan's hot, that oil is going to move real easily over the bottom of that, and I can smell that olive oil. You can hear that sizzle as well, which is a good sign. And in the oven this is going to go, and this is going to be in the oven now for 35 minutes, again at 400 degrees on roast mode. We're going to begin on the fish portion of this, and what I'm going to find is a really good lager. When I think of fish and chips, I think of Ireland, so I'm going to use a Guinness. This is a black Guinness lager. And I'm going to put in roughly about 10 ounces. Save the rest for me. And we're going to put the same amount of flour as we are beer. Before I do that, I'm going to go to my fridge and I'm going to grab an egg out of here. We're going to crack that egg. In with the beer, whisk it up. You can see all the foam that comes up on the beer. It's basically like shaking up a beer can. And now we're going to slowly incorporate our flour. And we're going to slowly incorporate it. And I'm looking more for a textural thing than I am a balanced between the flour and the beer. So I want it to still be loose. But like any good batter, if you overmix it, what happens is it starts to get thicker and thicker, and we don't want that. So do you see how it just barely drips off the whisk? That's a good, nice batter. We have to season this though. Put 2 pinches of salt. One generous pinch of pepper. And I'm going to put about a tablespoon of chopped parsley in here for color as well as flavor. Now at this point, and I've been making this for many years, I like to let this sit for about 10 minutes before I start dipping my fish in here and then bringing it to the oil. The reason for that is I want all the flavors to marry together, as well as I want the carbonation from that beer to just kind of even out a little bit and balance so we don't get really big air pockets in our batter. So we'll set this aside. While that's resting, we can make our tartar sauce. Let's begin on our tartar sauce. I have mayonnaise in here right now. I'm going to add a little bit of brown mustard. And we have roughly about a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise. and 2 tablespoons of brown mustard. I'm going to change the color of it slightly. If you're going to make a big batch of fish, go ahead and make this, you can double this recipe, triple this recipe. It's not going to really affect how it turns out if you have to make a large batch or anything like that. I chopped some capers earlier, and we're just going to scrape these in there as well. Capers are really going to give it that wonderful flavor that you look for in it. It's also going to turn the mayonnaise as well as the mustard. It's going to turn it a light brown color, and that's what you want. We're going to hit it with 1 pinch of salt. You don't need a lot of salt in this because of the capers. A little bit of pepper. And I'm going to add chopped green onions to it. I finely chopped these so that it's not such a big, it doesn't turn into a salad I'm making still what I would call a salad dressing, if you will. So there's your tartar sauce. Real simple, real easy, 4 or 5 ingredients. And now we can put this in our bowl and we can get ready to start deep frying our fish. Let's begin to fry our fish. I laid out our fish in a nice pie pan, so somewhere where I can get an even coating on top of my seasonings. And what I want to do is I want to hit it with some pepper and no salt at this point, because we're going to season this when it comes out of the fryer like we do almost any fried item. And a little pinch of that garlic and paprika. Make sure that we used earlier for our potatoes so that flavor runs through the entire meal. And from this, the easiest thing I can tell you is keep one hand wet, one hand dry. The hand that I'm going to pick up the fish with here is going to be my dry hand, and the hand that I move it around in that batter is going to be my wet hand. Now, using a larger bowl like this, I can get 3 or 4 pieces in there. I may even be able to get them all in there, which will make my job a little bit easier. And no, you know what, I'm going to leave that last one out. So we're going to take this first piece of fish, we're going to make sure they're all coated. And I'm going to find the smallest one I got, and I thought it was the first one I put in, but it actually wasn't. It's one of these tiny guys over here. Make sure he's coated. Shake off any excess batter. And we're going to use him as our test subject. We're going to hold him in that oil, and we're going to watch what happens. If you notice, he's starting to bubble up here. And we're going to sink him down a little bit more. We're going to let him go under that oil, and we're going to let him go. The reason why we fry that one side first is so it acts as almost like a buoy, and it gives it a little buoyancy so it floats back up to the top, and it doesn't, the heavy weight of that fish and that batter sinks all the way to the bottom. Now at this point, we can add another piece of fish. We don't want to overcrowd our oil, so I'm going to add probably 2 or 3 more pieces. I'll get that last piece from my pie pan here into my batter, and then I can fry all this at once. Currently I have 2 pieces in there, and the type of fish I'm using is Alaskan Cod. When you're going to deep fry fish, you don't need to use a real expensive piece. I don't want to use a Copper River sockeye salmon or something that's going to be $20, $30 a pound. Something like this, should run you somewhere between, right around $7 would be fine. We got these at Trader Joe's. Again, this is Alaskan Cod. I'm looking for something a little bit meatier. I don't want something so thin that once I drop it in that oil, it breaks apart. So I got 2 pieces in there right now. Again, I'm going to hold it in that oil, submerge it a little bit more, and I'm going to let it go. That guy's going to float to the top. We can check our other pieces. You can see they're going to start to brown up nice and evenly here. I didn't mention the type of oil I'm using. I'm using a peanut oil and canola oil blend. You can use a straight canola oil if there's any peanut allergies in your house. You can use straight peanut oil too. This is a blend so that I can control the heat. That blend also allows me to have this and fry this at a higher temperature if necessary, and it won't burst into flames on me. The other thing, safety features with frying anything, as I talked about in other episodes, make sure you got good ventilation, whether you're doing it outside or inside. I've been running my hood for this entire time, so the oil that is coming from the pan, it's going up and it's going into my exhaust. Our fish is now in the oil frying. I got a couple of them pulled out. I'm going to check on my potatoes. It's been about 30 minutes. And I've been peeking at them, so it's not like I perfectly guessed that they were done, but these look beautiful. Nice and golden brown. At this point, what I want to do is I want to sprinkle a little parsley on top to give them a little color. And kind of treating them like they were fried, even though they were roasted in the oven. I want to put a little bit more salt on them. And something that I do, and something I really try and preach, is whenever you're seasoning anything, make sure your distance between your hand and what you're seasoning is about 10 to 12 inches above it, so you evenly coat it. It's not something where you actually put a big drop of salt in one area. So get in the habit of going about 10 inches above it and going across your food nice and evenly. These are done. Let's take a look at our fish. Nice, beautiful color on there. And give them a shake when they come out of the oil. And what I'm laying them on is I'm laying them on a rack, a cookie drying rack, over a roasting pan. So any excess oil that's on that fish is going to drip down through the cookie tray into that roasting rack, making it easy for me to clean up. And at this point, once you pull it out of the oil, you want to hit it with a little salt. And then if we do want to garnish it with a little bit more parsley, you can do that too. We don't really need a lot because there's already some in the batter. That green's already going to come through. And we'll finish this up, pulling these guys out of the oil. Alright, so our fish is done. We're going to push that oil out of the way. I'm going to move the fish up a little bit easier for you guys to see it. Hit it with a little bit more salt. And now we can plate it up. Again, I cooked it in that canola peanut oil blend. It's your choice type of oil you want to use, except stay away from olive oil. It's too low of a smoking point. And there was about 6 to 7 minutes in that oil cooking time from start to finish with the fish. Let's plate this up. And they're very hot, so be careful. And that golden brown on the potatoes, the nice crispy skin from where it's laying on the sheet tray. So don't forget, make sure you preheat that sheet tray up. And that tartar sauce is going to taste delicious with all this food. Obviously not a light meal, maybe a salad will go good with this. You can serve more of that Guinness Black Lager with this to finish off the meal. There you go, fish, some oven roasted chips made in your house in about 35 minutes, some great tasting pub food. I'm going to crack a Guinness right now and I'm going to sit down and enjoy this. So thanks for joining us from Cooking from the Cave. I'm Chef Pete Trusiak and we'll see you really soon.